Hi, Hope Castle Rock here again, and today I want to talk about gratitude. And I want to talk about a little bit of a different type of a perspective on gratitude because a lot of times people tend to focus on what they're grateful for as far as possessions go. I'm grateful I have a house, I'm grateful I have food, that sort of thing. And they tend to compare themselves to other people who might not have the things that we have. This society in America tends to really gravitate toward possessions versus other other things to be grateful for. And so I wanted to talk about my personal experience with gratitude the last few weeks. And I really got to stop saying A couple of weeks ago, I went to a chiropractor and had an adjustment done. I thought that it might be a good idea because I am someone who has experienced a decent amount of pain in their body over the last, I would say, probably 15 years. I joined the military when I was 17, and while I was at basic training, I started having hip pain. I didn't fall down. I didn't have an injury. Something didn't hit me. I just started experiencing pain. When I walked, when I ran, my hip would give out. I waited until after basic training because I didn't want to get stuck in limbo. And I went to the doctors once I was at AIT, and they tried to tell me it was in my head. They couldn't figure out what was going on. I couldn't, it was just a lot of pain. And one of the doctors at the hospital that I was attending suggested physical therapy, but that didn't work. But my physical therapy mostly consisted of hot and cold applications on my hip areas. My knees hurt as well, but I think it was more of a result of what was really kind of going on in my body. Now I'm in massage therapy school, and I'm learning that when you go through trauma or difficult situations, that can cause your muscles to feel pain or hold that in. So essentially that's like your subconscious holding these experiences in. Even though you might not be cognitively thinking about it, it's something that happens, and then boom, you have a pain pattern that starts. Well, once you get muscles that are too tight or not tight enough, so you'll have muscles in one area that might be too tight, and then that causes, essentially they're shortened when they're too tight. And then that causes muscles on a different part of your body that are associated with that movement that those muscles produce to be overly lengthened. The overly lengthened muscles are what cause the pain. So you could be saying, oh, my lower back hurts, but really it's probably your legs that are out of balance. And so then you get those back in balance and your lower back pain stops. So me being 17/18, thinking, I have this pain in my right hip and I don't know why. I'm going to go to the doctor for it. Well, they couldn't figure out why because I'm very flexible. I was somewhat very athletic when I was younger, but somewhat of a gymnast in a sense. And so when they would do their tests, I would go beyond when they would do stretches and that sort of thing, move my legs around. I wouldn't have any problems. At that time, the only time that I really experienced pain was when I was doing a lot of running, which when you're in the military, you're doing a lot of running. That's the main part of your physical movement. That's a big part of your job. You get up at 3:50 in the morning when you're in training, and you go to formation, and you go run 6, 8, 10, however many miles. Then you do how many 5K marches and this and that. And there really was a very limited amount of stretching that was taking place, though. And there are so many various little muscles within the pelvic region that don't necessarily get stretched unless you take the time to stretch them. And in an environment such as basic training, it's more of like, simulated war. And so, we're high stress, low, self-care environment. And so I'm at AIT doing, this hot cold therapy with physical therapy, and it wasn't helping. So, they kind of didn't really know what to do with me. They suggested, they as in the doctors at the base that I was at, suggested that I get a double hip replacement, because they really just weren't sure what to do. But when they explained to me that a double hip replacement, isn't going to really solve anything, then I decided not to do it. And they suggested waiting 2 years. They said I might have, bursitis or something like that, because they couldn't see anything on x-rays. I don't think they did any ultrasounds. I don't remember that. But they did, stretch testing and, tried to figure out, but they were stumped. And so they recommended just don't run. So they gave me a waiver for running and said wait 2 years and then start running again. And if you experience the pain again, then you just can't run. And that's just the answer that I got. So I waited the 2 years and I started running again, and it was glorious. I could run. And I remember when I was a kid, I could really run a lot. My mom tells me all the time that I don't remember what age she said I started walking, but she said as soon as I learned how to walk, I didn't walk anymore. I ran everywhere. And even before I could actually hold myself up enough to walk, she had one of those old not a walker, what are those things called that the kids sit in with the rollers on them? Well, whatever it is, the house that we were living in had a tile kitchen that was pretty expansive, and she said I would go from one end of the house and I would start running in this thing. They're the little kid carts. They're not allowed anymore. Somebody decided they were unsafe, probably because of kids like me getting injured, but I didn't get injured. So I would start from one end of the house and I would start running, and then as soon as I hit the linoleum, I would lift up my legs and I would slide all the way across to the other side of the house, and then I would go back and do that. I was just really obsessed with movement, climbing, and all that sort of thing. And so when I was confronted with this injury, it was really crushing. But I decided that, these doctors really knew what they were talking about, and I waited the 2 years and I started running again, but after like a week or two, the pain was back. And so that didn't really help. And I spent 4 years in the military, and most of it was, walking. And I really felt bad and, really would get down on myself more about it. I couldn't figure out how to help myself. And I just kind of had given up on that. And now that I'm in massage therapy school, I feel like, I was starting to feel like, okay, well, I'm learning a lot about anatomy. I'm really starting to understand the way that the body works and muscles work and all that, right? So back in August, so I started school in May of this year, and in August we had a class on anterior pelvic tilt protocol, which involves, if someone's pelvis is tilted too far forward, the X muscles are lengthened and X muscles are shortened. So you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to get them to balance out and correct that anterior pelvic tilt, which helps range of motion in the hips and whatnot. So I don't have an anterior pelvic tilt, and even though I don't have one, we still had to go through the motions of practicing that. And the classmate that I worked on, I think, did a pretty good job of working on me, but my lower back area and hips kind of started hurting again, but not super bad. But then it just kind of started getting worse, and then so middle of October hit, and it was really pretty bad. And I think it was about a month ago, I had it was just really pretty painful. And so I skipped class one day, rested a little bit, was doing some stretches and trying to work through it. And meanwhile, coinciding with the start of massage school, I hired a relationship coach, and prior to all of this, I started doing what's called Access Consciousness, and that is essentially, Access Consciousness is a set of hands-on and energetic tools that allow a person to create permanent change in their body, physically and subconsciously. And so I started doing a lot of that stuff, and so I have this little tool belt with Access Consciousness. And so I started working with the relationship coach, and her name is Joanna Kennedy, and I'll link her website in the comments section below. And I started working with her to essentially, I need something different as far as relationships go, whether that be romantic or platonic or otherwise, just in general. And since I was able to focus on myself through the massage, then I thought it would be good to work through it. So just a little backstory that kind of pertains to this moment. So my back is hurting, and I'm learning all about, emotions that can be tied in with certain muscles and and like I've got all this emotional baggage stuff that's coming up, and I'm clearing it with the Access Consciousness tools, and I'm doing well. And my classmates were working on me, as we're learning, they're helping me, and I'm gaining more and more self-awareness, it seems like, every day. And so here I am going, and my back hurts about a month ago, pretty bad, and I think one of my classmates worked on me. And so then I thought, I probably should go to a chiropractor, because it seems like, maybe the misalignment of my hips is continuing to provide this thing to manifest. Allow this thing to manifest. And so I went to a new chiropractor, and he didn't take x-rays, and I don't blame him at all, because it's my body that's creating this thing. But I went to him, he adjusted my back, he adjusted my clavicle here. I have a bit of a protracted shoulder thing going on, and so he had adjusted these ribs up here, because he says that even if you are working the muscles, that you can have ribs or whatever out of place, and then it'll just continuously, do that thing that it does. And so he adjusted my back, and then he adjusted my toes and my knees, kind of, but that kind of just more came with the hips. So he adjusted my right hip according to his knowledge base, and I left there feeling pretty okay. I didn't feel weird, or there wasn't any kind of like brain fog that was associated with the adjustment. And then Thursday I worked in the massage clinic, just where we are at in the school. They have hands-on portions, so we get a chance to learn and work with the public in a clinic type setting, so that we'll be better prepared when we graduate. And so I worked Thursday in the clinic, and then just my upper back and along my spinal erectors on either side of my spine, those muscles were pretty tender at the end of the day, but I was doing okay. Then Friday morning came around, and I was not okay. And it was the day before Halloween, and I'm a single mom, so I split custody kind of with my ex, and so his work was doing some kind of a Halloween festivities thing, and so I went to her school with her to do her makeup, and her grandmother was going to take her over there. So I'm at the school, and my back is killing me. I mean, I barely was able to get out of the car, and I was just having a hard time moving around, and the longer I stood there in the bathroom with my daughter doing her makeup, the more I was hurting. And I thought, oh, I just need to get some muscle relaxers and lay down, take a nap, something, rest. And I have muscle relaxers just because the the hip thing and the back thing. Like, I've gone to doctors, like medical doctors before, and they just give me muscle relaxers. So I had some on hand, and I was like, okay, I'm going to just do this thing, and then I'm going to go. Well, then I could barely, after standing there for 20 minutes doing her makeup and stuff, I could really barely walk. It felt so painful in my leg to even just take a full step. And I didn't really understand what was going on. And I tried to sit down at the school while we were waiting for her grandmother, but I ended up spontaneously bursting into tears because it hurt so bad. And so then I thought, okay, well, I'll just stand. So grandmother comes to pick her up. I explain I have my back really hurts, and I'm just going to go home real quick and take a muscle relaxer. So when you guys are done with the thing, I'll have the door unlocked at the house, and my daughter can just come in. And so she was like, okay. And so then I just proceed to walk to my car. And when I tried to get in, when I went to lift up my right leg to get into the driver's side door, some muscles spasmed kind of in this really bizarre way. It's hard to explain. It kind of feels like somebody just stabbed me in my hip area and my back and was twisting a knife. But it was like all of the muscles in my core area on my right side and in my hip. And then the pain was reverberating down my leg. And I've never experienced pain like that. And even when I had my hip stuff 15 years ago, it really wasn't quite that intense ever. So I really couldn't understand what was going on. But so I tried to lift up my leg and just kind of like heave myself into the car. And that's when everything went in my back, all my muscles and everything. And I'm doing this motion because that's just kind of like naturally what I was doing. And then I fell down. I didn't really have anything to grab onto, and so I just kind of fell down onto the ground and was kind of writhing around, but I was like screaming and crying at the same time. And somebody was coming to pick up their kids in the parking lot, and at this time there wasn't that many people around, so someone was coming to pick up their kid in the parking lot and saw me, and they called 911. So an ambulance came and took me to the hospital. And the doctors really couldn't figure out what to do, but they put me on some morphine, and I was able to, my muscles were able to relax enough that they were just like all constricted, and it was so bizarre. But I just couldn't move. It hurt so badly. It just hurt, and so the doctor tried to get some x-rays, but I couldn't straighten my legs out. And, with it being the ER on a Friday night, I mean, they just needed to get me out of there in anticipation of the crowd and people coming in. They needed the room. So they kind of forced me to sit up, and I'm miserable this whole time, right? And I mean, even them assisting me, there was like 4 people assisting me with sitting up and getting in a wheelchair and, getting out the door and everything. And so I eventually get home and get to the pharmacy, get my prescription filled, just barely in time for the pharmacy to close, which was wonderful that I was able to get the muscle relaxers and I think it was like hydrocodone or something like that, and an anti-inflammatory that the doctor prescribed for me. And I pretty much just zonked out. Well, then Saturday, Halloween comes around, and some friends of mine come pick me up, and they take me to their house, and they take care of me until Sunday. And in the meantime, my car is in the parking lot at my daughter's school. And her school happens to be on the corner of a busy street, and then there's like another street. So it's just right on the corner. And there is a way that you can cut through the parking lot. Well, somebody, while I was in the hospital, cut through the parking lot, and they were looking down because they felt like they were safe. He said he has a paper route or something, and he was just trying to get there quickly and figure out where the next address was that he needed to be. But he hit my car while I was in the hospital. And so I discovered this on Sunday. And here's the beauty in the situation. My car is a standard transmission, and the guy left his phone number and took full ownership of the car accident. and so I didn't have to pay anything for it. He has full coverage, and in Colorado, it's not required that you have full coverage, but he just happened to have bought a car that, like, literally the day before he hit my car and has full coverage on his vehicle. And so I get a rental car, which is an automatic. All these rental car agencies, I'm pretty sure, don't have any standard transmission vehicles. Well, because of my hip thing, the day on my way over to my daughter's school, I kept thinking, well, how am I going to drive? Because it was painful to compress the accelerator. And I'm thinking, how am I going to drive? How am I going to get home? How am I going to get around? I can barely move. We live very close to my daughter's school, but I don't want her to walk to school herself. And so my thing is, I'm sitting here thinking about this, and then this guy hits my car. Now, at first, I'm like, man, this really sucks. Like, boom, 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 here's these bad things happening, right? So I get a chance to kind of recuperate, or not really recuperate. It wasn't getting better over the weekend, but massage therapy school came around, again, Monday came around, and my classmates were giving me rides, and I was all drugged up on hydrocodone and whatever the other stuff they gave me, and my, I was basically just kind of like there, but I wasn't really there, and one of the classmates decided that he would help me, and kind of did some massage, and it helped, but not completely. It definitely helped me become more mobile, and my friends on Saturday let me borrow a cane that they happen to have, and so Wednesday comes around, and my classmate and I after class are doing some stretches, and we do a psoas stretch, which consists of me being on the end of the table, and let's say this is the end of the table, my knees are down here, right? So my knees are down, and we put one leg up, one leg down, so this leg would be up on the person's shoulders, and then they would push their knee down, and that stretches the psoas muscle, right? So we start on the left side, since that's not the side that's painful, and it felt good, so we tried it on the right. So we push down, and this is a PNF stretch, I believe. So we're pushing down, and my hip popped, and then, just like that, the pain goes away. Right? So I could blame the chiropractor, but I'm not. I'm just, I'm so grateful that I'm not in pain. And every day I have continued to get a little bit better. But I think that it's so amazing what the body can do. Like, what has this injury, what has this current situation now brought to me and my life? Like, what if the work that I'm doing with my massage class, the school, and all the stuff I'm learning there, and what if all of the work that I'm doing with my relationship coach and all that stuff, what if that is helping these muscles release? And what if that pain that I felt, that chiropractor visit that seemed like it was a bad thing, what if all of that is just really what my body needed in order to heal, the subconscious traumas that I've experienced? And it's so amazing that the universe gave me what I needed. The car accident thing, not such a good thing on the surface, right? But it has been wonderful because it's what I needed. I couldn't drive a standard in the condition that I was in. So the universe gave me something different to drive. And I'm so grateful for that. And it's just something that's quite a bit different of a concept. But I hope that you can get some enlightenment from this yourself and continue, because really this is self-awareness. I mean, there's other things that came up with all of this, because I'm like, okay, well, one of the tools with Access Consciousness, there's a lot of tools, but one of the ways that you can access tools to create change is by asking questions. And there's like a myriad of questions. So I'm not going to get into all of it right now. And if you're curious about Access Consciousness, then you can check it out. I'll put a link in the bottom as well for that. But so questions. One of the questions is, what's right about this that I'm not getting, or what's right about me that I'm not getting. So I asked that around the car accident. I asked that around my hip. I asked that around, everything that was coming up this last couple of weeks. I am able to get around now. I mean, since my hip popped back into place, that definitely helped. My muscles are still kind of spasming, but I don't need the hydrocodone. I don't need the muscle relaxers and that sort of thing. So I'm definitely doing a lot better. And just right before I decided to do this video, I was texting with one of my friends. I haven't talked to her in a couple weeks, and I asked her how she's doing, and she said she was good. And then, she asked me how I was doing. So I told her, oh, it's been an interesting few weeks, and I shared the story with her, and she goes, the first thing she says was, oh, I'm so sorry that you're experiencing all of this. And the way that I worded it with her was, this happened, but I'm grateful because it gave me the opportunity to clear some of my stuff, right? And I thought that was pretty profound, because your perspective creates your reality, right? And if you haven't heard that before, it does. Like the way that you think and how you feel about yourself and the world around you creates what happens in your life and where you go in the future. What happens in your body, what happens in your mind, it's all connected. Everything is connected. And I thought that was profound enough for me to make a video on. And I apologize that this video is so long, and I am going to get better, or I'm going to learn how to edit videos and whatnot. But in the meantime, thank you for listening, and I hope that I've enlightened your day. I am grateful that my body was able to release something. I don't even care what it was. I don't need to know. I'm thankful that the universe is supporting me. I'm grateful that I have friends that are willing to take care of me, and classmates that are passionate enough about their study with massage that they were able to take a lot of time and work through various muscle groups with me and get me to where I'm at. I'm still a little slow getting up. I think I still need some more massages. I've decided I'm not probably going to go back to that chiropractor again for a while. I want to continue maybe I want to continue searching my subconscious for clues as to why I have this thing going on in the first place. And I'm going to start getting back into yoga and moving my body. I did sign up, since I'm a veteran, I signed up for physical therapy through the local VA clinic that I have in town, and I'm hoping that I haven't experienced it before in this capacity, so I'm hoping that they won't just do hot cold therapy on my hips. So with that being said, what are you grateful for? Comment below, please. Let's get a dialogue started about gratitude, and if you have any questions about Chinese medicine or metaphysical components related to the subconscious body holding traumas into certain muscle groups, I'd love to get some feedback or answer questions if you have them. And thank you for hanging in there for this almost 30-minute video story. Goodbye.